Captain Daewon stood on the bridge of the defense frigate Iron Will, watching the stars drift past the view screen. His shift was almost over, and he looked forward to sending a message to his sister back on New Pyongyang. She had just opened a small restaurant in the colony, and business was going well. The thought made him smile. The colony had been peaceful for 15 years. 50,000 people called New Pyongyang home. They grew food, mined precious metals, and built lives far from Earth. Children played in the streets. Families gathered for meals. It was everything humanity had dreamed of when they reached for the stars. Lieutenant Hana sat at the tactical station, running routine scans of the outer system. She was thinking about her husband, who worked at the mining facility. Tonight was their anniversary, and she had managed to get the evening shift off. "Just a few more hours, Captain. I'm detecting something," Hana said suddenly. Her voice was calm, but Daewon heard the edge in it. "What do you have?" he asked, moving to her station. "3 large contacts, sir. Very large. They just appeared at the edge of the system." Daewon frowned. No ships were scheduled to arrive today. "Send a greeting." Standard protocols. Hana sent the message. They waited. No response came. "Sir, they're moving. Fast, heading directly toward New Pyongyang." Daewon's stomach tightened. "Sound general alert. Get me Governor Kyung-soo on the planet." The lights on the bridge shifted to red. Alarms echoed through the ship. The crew rushed to their stations. Engineer Tae-yang appeared on the internal screen from the engine room. "Captain, what's happening?" Tae-yang asked. "Unknown ships approaching the colony. Get the engines to maximum power. We need to get back there now." The view screen flickered as they established contact with the planet. Governor Kyung-soo appeared, his face confused. "Captain, we're receiving alerts about unidentified ships. 3 vessels, Governor. They're not responding to our hails. I recommend you activate the defense grid and move people to the shelters." Kyung-soo nodded. "I'll give the order immediately." The Iron Will turned and burned hard toward the inner system. But they were too far out. It would take them 40 minutes to reach the colony. The unknown ships would arrive in 10. "Still no response to our messages, sir," Hana reported. "And Captain, those ships are huge, much bigger than anything we have." Daewon clenched his fists. "Keep trying. All frequencies." On New Pyongyang, sirens wailed across the city. People stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. Some ran for the underground shelters. Others stood frozen, confused. The defense grid powered up, its weapons tracking the incoming ships. Medic Jiwoo was at the hospital when the alarms started. She had been treating a child with a broken arm. Now she quickly finished the bandage and told the mother to get to the shelter. Around her, other doctors and nurses were doing the same, trying to move patients to the reinforced basement levels. The 3 alien ships entered orbit. They were massive dark vessels covered in armor plating. Strange symbols marked their hulls. Their weapon ports glowed with an angry red light. Governor Kyung-soo stood in the command center watching the screen. "This is Governor Kyung-soo of the human colony New Pyongyang. We mean you no harm. Please identify yourselves." There was no answer. The alien ships moved into position, spreading out above the planet. Then they opened fire. The first beam struck the defense grid. The automated weapons tried to fight back, firing missiles and energy bolts at the massive ships. But the alien shields absorbed everything. The defense grid lasted 30 seconds. Before it was completely destroyed, the alien weapons turned toward the city. Daewon watched helplessly from the Iron Will. The sensor showed energy readings that made no sense. The power of those weapons was incredible. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." The bombardment began. Beams of superheated plasma rained down on New Pyongyang. Buildings exploded. Streets melted. Fire spread across entire districts in seconds. The aliens fired methodically, systematically destroying the colony section by section. "Get us there faster," Daewon shouted at Tae-yang. "I'm trying, sir. The engines are already past maximum." Hana's hands shook over her console. She was trying to contact her husband. No response. She tried again. Nothing. The communication network was gone. On the planet, Jiwoo had made it to the basement with her patients when the first blast hit the hospital. The building shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then a terrible grinding sound filled the air as the upper floors collapsed. They were trapped but alive. For now, the bombardment continued for 20 minutes. 20 minutes of continuous fire from orbit. The aliens showed no mercy. They targeted everything: homes, factories, power plants, water treatment facilities, farms, schools. Nothing was spared. Governor Kyung-soo died when a beam struck the command center. He never even had time to be afraid. By the time the Iron Will arrived, the bombardment had stopped. The 3 alien ships were leaving orbit, accelerating away from the system. Daewon wanted to chase them, to fight them, but he knew it was pointless. His small frigate would be destroyed in seconds. "Get me a scan of the planet," he said quietly. The sensors swept across New Pyongyang. What they found made Hana gasp. The entire colony was gone. Buildings were rubble. Fires burned everywhere. The computer calculated casualties based on the destruction. 47,000 dead. Only 3,000 life signs remained, mostly from the deepest shelters that had survived the attack. Daewon stared at the screen. His sister's restaurant had been in the northern district. That district no longer existed, just a smoking crater in the ground. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien ships," Hana said, her voice hollow. "Play it." A harsh, grating voice filled the bridge. The computer translated the alien language. "This territory belongs to the Velkari Empire. Lesser species are not welcome. This is your only warning. Leave or be destroyed." Then the transmission ended. The 3 ships jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished. Daewon stood very still. His crew looked at him, waiting. Taeyang's face appeared on the screen from engineering. His eyes were red. "Sir, my wife and children were down there. My parents, everyone." "I know," Daewon said. "Take us down." Search and rescue operations begin immediately. The Iron Will descended through the smoke-filled atmosphere. They landed near the largest cluster of survivors. Daewon led the teams himself, moving through the ruins. They found Jiwoo and the other hospital survivors after 3 hours of digging. They found 2,000 more people in various shelters across the colony, 3,000 survivors from a population of 50,000. That night, Daewon gathered the survivors in the largest intact shelter. They were scared, hurt, and broken. Many were crying. Others just stared at nothing, their minds unable to process what had happened. Daewon stood before them. His uniform was covered in dust and blood. His face was hard. "I know many of you have lost everything," he said. His voice carried through the shelter. "I have too. My sister died today. Lieutenant Hana lost her husband. Engineer Taeyang lost his entire family. We have all lost someone." He paused, looking at their faces. "The aliens who did this called us a lesser species. They killed 47,000 people and then left, thinking we would simply run away. They were wrong." Daewon's hands clenched into fists. "I make this promise to every person here, and to everyone who died today. Every drop of human blood spilled on this world will cost the Velkari 10 times over. I swear this on the ashes of New Pyongyang. They will learn that attacking humanity carries a price they cannot imagine. We will make them pay, every single one." The survivors looked up at him. In their eyes, grief began to mix with something else. Something harder. Something that would not break. Determination. 6 months had passed since the massacre. Captain Daewon stood in a conference room at the military headquarters on Earth, facing a panel of politicians and military officers. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his face showed the weight of the past months. He had not slept well since New Pyongyang. "Captain, we understand your feelings," said one of the politicians, a soft-faced man who had never seen combat. "But what you're proposing is suicide. The Velkari Empire controls 47 star systems. They have hundreds of warships. We have 12 colonies and maybe 40 military vessels total. So we do nothing?" Daewon asked quietly. "We let them murder our people and just accept it?" Admiral Bora, a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, leaned forward. "No one is saying that, Captain. But we must be realistic. A direct military confrontation would result in the extinction of humanity. Then we don't fight directly," Daewon said. "We hit them where they're weak. Supply lines, isolated outposts, small convoys. We make them bleed until they realize that attacking us costs more than it's worth." The politicians looked uncomfortable. One of them said, "That's terrorism, Captain. We can't officially support such actions." "Then don't support it officially," Admiral Bora said. Everyone turned to look at her. She stood up. "This meeting is over. Captain Daewon, come with me." They walked through the corridors in silence until they reached her private office. She closed the door and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. I lost a grandson at New Pyongyang, she said, handing him a glass. He was 7 years old. Loved dinosaurs. Daewon took the glass but didn't drink. I'm sorry, Admiral. The politicians are cowards, Bora continued. They won't authorize retaliation because they're afraid. But I'm not. Neither are you. She looked him in the eye. I can't give you official orders. But I can make sure certain resources are available. I can make sure certain intelligence reports reach you. And I can make sure that if you happen to form an irregular warfare unit, no one asks too many questions. Daewon felt hope for the first time in months. What do you need from me? Results, Bora said simply. Make them hurt. Make them regret what they did. But most importantly, make them think twice before they attack another human colony. 2 weeks later, the Iron Will sat in a military shipyard being retrofitted. Engineer Taeyang supervised every modification personally. He had spent 6 months studying every piece of Velkari technology they had recovered from previous encounters. He knew their shield frequencies, their weapon ranges, their engine signatures. Lieutenant Hana worked with him planning tactical approaches. She had changed since losing her husband. The warm, friendly woman was gone. In her place was someone cold and focused, someone who spent 18 hours a day studying Velkari combat tactics. Their shields are strong, Taeyang explained, pointing at a holographic display, but they're designed to stop heavy weapons. They cycle through different frequencies to adapt. The problem is the cycle is predictable. Can we exploit that? Hana asked. Yes. If we can hit them with weapons that rapidly shift frequencies, we can bypass their shields. But it requires precise timing and coordination. A new face joined them. Scientist Young Mai had been transferred to their team from a research facility. She was young, brilliant, and angry. Her parents had died at New Pyongyang. I can build the frequency-shifting weapons, Young Mi said, but they'll drain a lot of power. We can only use them in short bursts. Then we make every burst count, Hana said. Over the next month, volunteers arrived. Every single one of them had lost someone at New Pyongyang. There was Pilot Subin, whose brother had died in the attack. She was one of the best fighter pilots in the human fleet. There was Commander Jae-min, who now commanded a stealth corvette called the Shadowblade. There was Corporal Dong Hyun, a Marine who specialized in boarding actions. His wife had been a teacher at the colony school. Daewon interviewed each volunteer personally. He needed to know they understood what they were signing up for. This would not be glory or heroism. It would be hard, dangerous work with no guarantee of success. Why do you want to join? He asked Subin. Because sitting in a classroom teaching new pilots feels like a waste of time, she answered. My brother died for nothing. I want to make his death mean something. This might be a suicide mission, Daewon warned. Then I'll die fighting instead of sitting safely while others take the risks. He asked them all the same questions. They all gave similar answers. By the time the Iron Will was ready to launch, Daewon had a crew of 87 volunteers. Not a single one had been ordered to join. They were all there because they wanted to be. Intelligence Officer Su Jin arrived with the final briefing. She had been monitoring Velkari communications for months. I've identified the commander who ordered the attack on New Pyongyang, she said, projecting an image on the screen. It showed a Velkari warrior, larger than the others, with scars covering his face and strange armor. His name is War Master Throck. He commands a dreadnought called the Crimson Talon. Where is he now? Daewon asked. In Velkari Corps territory. Heavily defended. We can't reach him directly. Not yet. Then we start with smaller targets, Hana said. We build up to him. Young Mi had finished installing the new weapons. She showed Daewon how they worked, explaining the technical details. He didn't understand all of it, but he understood enough. They now had weapons that could hurt the Velkari. The night before they launched, Daewon gathered his crew. They stood in the hangar bay looking up at the Iron Will. The ship had been modified heavily. It looked different now, more aggressive, more dangerous. We can't match their fleets, Daewon told them. We don't have their numbers or their firepower. What we have is something they don't expect. We have the element of surprise. We have knowledge of their weaknesses. And we have something else they lack. He paused, looking at each face. We have a reason to fight. Each of us lost someone. We carry their memory with us. The Velkari killed our people and then forgot about us. They think we're weak. They think we'll hide and do nothing. We're going to prove them wrong. How many do we need to kill? Subin asked. To make it even? 47,000 colonists died, Daewon said. By my math, that means we need to kill 470,000 Velkari. 10 times the blood they spilled. The crew looked at him. Some faces showed shock. Others showed grim determination. That's impossible, someone said. Maybe, Daewon agreed. But we're going to try. And even if we only kill 1,000 or 100 or 10, we'll make them remember New Pyongyang. We'll make them remember that humanity doesn't forgive. We don't forget, Taeyang stepped forward. The engines are ready, Captain. All systems are green. Hana checked her tactical console. Weapons are armed and ready. Youngmi gave a thumbs up from the engineering bay. Frequency shift systems are online. Daewon turned to look at the Iron Will one more time. It was a small ship in the grand scheme of things. Just one frigate against an empire. But it was a start. Load up, he ordered. We launch in 1 hour. The crew moved to their stations. Daewon walked through the ship, checking on departments. In medical, Jiwoo was organizing supplies. She had volunteered to come along, saying that if people were going to fight, they would need a doctor. In the Marine Bay, Donghyun's squad was checking their weapons and armor. They were ready for boarding actions, for taking the fight directly to Velkari ships. In the hangar, Subin was performing final checks on her fighter. It was painted black, almost invisible against space, perfect for surprise attacks. Daewon made his way to the bridge and sat in the captain's chair. Around him, his officers took their positions. Hana at tactical, Taeyang monitoring from engineering. Sujin at intelligence. All the pieces were in place. All stations report ready, Captain, Hana said. Daewon took a deep breath. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. Once they launched, there was no going back. They would be at war with the Velkari Empire, whether the politicians admitted it or not. Take us out, he ordered. The Iron Will lifted off from the shipyard. They cleared the atmosphere and entered space. Earth fell away behind them. Ahead lay the vast darkness between stars, and somewhere in that darkness their enemies waited. Plot a course to the edge of Velkari territory, Daewon said. We're going hunting. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. Inside, 87 people prepared for war. They had lost everything at New Pyongyang. Now they would make sure the Velkari paid the price, 10 times over. The Iron Will drifted through deep space, all systems running on minimal power. They had been waiting for 3 hours, hiding in the shadow of a dead moon. On the bridge, Captain Daewon watched the long-range sensors with patient eyes. He had learned patience over the past 8 months. Patience and how to kill. Contact, Hana whispered. 3 vessels, Velkari signatures. Supply convoy, just like Sujin predicted. Daewon leaned forward. This would be their 35th attack since leaving Earth. In 8 months they had struck at mining operations, supply depots, communication relays, and convoys just like this one. Each time they had escaped before Velkari reinforcements arrived. Each time they had added to their count. 340 Velkari dead so far. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Distance? He asked. 2 million kilometers and closing. They'll pass within 500,000 kilometers in 20 minutes. Perfect. Subin, prepare your squadron. Launch in 15 minutes. In the hangar bay, pilot Subin and her team climbed into their fighters. They were small, fast ships painted black to blend with space. Over the months, Subin had developed tactics specifically for fighting Velkari vessels. Hit fast, hit hard, and disappear before they could respond. She checked her weapons one more time. Everything was ready. Her squad of 8 fighters launched silently, using momentum rather than engines to avoid detection. They drifted into position, waiting. The Velkari convoy consisted of 3 large cargo ships and 2 escort frigates. They moved through space without concern, following a well-traveled route. Inside those cargo ships were weapons, ammunition, and supplies for Velkari military outposts. After today, those outposts would receive nothing. Fighters in position, Subin reported. Ready on your mark, Captain. Daewon counted down the seconds. Timing was everything. If they attacked too early, the escorts might escape. Too late, and the convoy might detect them. Mark. Subin's fighters ignited their engines all at once, accelerating to attack speed in seconds. The Velkari sensors picked them up immediately, but by then, it was too late. The fighters split into 2 groups, each targeting an escort frigate. Young Mi's modified weapons worked perfectly. The frequency-shifting torpedoes slipped through the Velkari shields like they weren't there. The first escort exploded in a brilliant flash. The second escort tried to turn, tried to fight back, but 8 fighters against 1 ship was no contest. It died 30 seconds later. The cargo ships tried to run. They were unarmed and slow. Easy targets. Iron Will, moving to intercept, Daewon ordered. The frigate powered up and swept toward the fleeing cargo ships. Hana fired with precision, targeting engines and life support. 1 cargo ship exploded when a lucky shot hit something volatile in its cargo. The other 2 went dead in space, powerless and helpless. Dong-hyun, you're up, Daewon said. Corporal Dong-hyun and his Marine squad launched in a boarding pod. It magnetically clamped to the hull of the first cargo ship. They cut through in seconds and stormed inside. The Velkari crew tried to fight. They were large creatures, bigger and stronger than humans, with tough scaled skin and vicious claws. But they weren't soldiers. They were cargo handlers, and Dong-hyun's Marines were trained killers. The fight was over in 5 minutes. 23 Velkari dead. The second cargo ship surrendered without a fight. 30 more Velkari prisoners. Daewon had them all brought to the Iron Will's brig. He didn't enjoy taking prisoners, but he needed information. Intelligence officer Soo-jin would interrogate them, learn about Velkari military movements, codes, and tactics. One of the prisoners was a Velkari officer. Soo-jin brought him to Daewon's ready room. The alien was tall, over 2 meters, with dark red scales and yellow eyes. It stared at Daewon with what looked like contempt. "You are the human called Ghost Commander," it said through the translator. Its voice was a deep rumble. Daewon raised an eyebrow. "Ghost Commander? That is what our fleet calls you, the human ship that appears from nowhere, strikes, and vanishes. Like a ghost." "I'm just a captain doing his job," Daewon said. "Now you're going to answer some questions." The Velkari officer laughed, a harsh barking sound. "I will tell you nothing, primitive. You may have destroyed a few supply ships, but you are insects. When War Master Throck finds you, he will crush you and scatter your remains across space." Daewon leaned back in his chair. "Throck, tell me about him." "He is the greatest warrior of the Velkari Empire. He has conquered 12 species. He has burned 100 worlds. And he is hunting for you personally, human. He considers you an annoyance that must be eliminated." "Good," Daewon said quietly. "I want him to find me." The Velkari officer's eyes narrowed. "You seek death? I seek justice." Throck ordered the destruction of New Pyongyang. 47,000 of my people died. Women, children, elderly. All killed without mercy, without warning, without reason. "There was reason," the officer said. "Your colony was built on land rich with void crystals. The Velkari Empire needed those crystals. Your people were in the way." Daewon felt cold fury wash over him. "So you murdered 47,000 people for mining resources. They were warned to leave. They did not, so they died. This is the way of the universe. The strong take what they need. The weak die." Daewon stood up. "Take him back to the brig. Keep him separated from the others." After the Velkari officer was gone, Daewon stood alone in his ready room. So that was why. Not a military target. Not a threat. Just people who happened to live on land the Velkari wanted. Murdered for convenience. He activated his personal log and recorded the officer's words. When this was over, when humanity finally faced the Velkari Empire properly, they would need evidence of Velkari crimes. Over the following months, the Iron Will continued its campaign. They hit convoy after convoy, destroyed outpost after outpost. Each time they struck, they counted the dead. 340 became 400. 400 became 450. They learned more about the Velkari with each attack. Soo-jin intercepted communications and broke their codes. She discovered that Velkari culture viewed mercy as weakness. They had no concept of proportional response. To them, any threat must be completely destroyed. This made them powerful but predictable. Young Mi improved the weapons with each battle. She studied Velkari shield technology from captured equipment. She found new weaknesses, new ways to hurt them. The Iron Will's weapons became more and more effective, but the crew was getting tired. 8 months of constant combat, always on alert, always ready to flee if stronger forces arrived. Jiwoo, the ship's doctor, reported that stress levels were dangerously high. People were having nightmares. Some were questioning whether what they were doing mattered. Daewon called a crew meeting in the mess hall. "I know this is hard," he told them. "I know some of you are wondering if we're making a difference. We've killed 450 Velkari. That's not even 1% of what we owe them. It feels like we're fighting an endless battle against an enemy we can never defeat." He looked around at their faces. These people had followed him for 8 months. They had trusted him. They deserved the truth. "You're right. We can't defeat the Velkari Empire, not alone. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're sending a message. We're proving that attacking humanity has consequences. Every Velkari ship we destroy, every outpost we eliminate, makes them spend resources hunting us, makes them pull forces from other areas, makes them afraid." "Are they afraid?" someone asked. "Or are they just angry?" "Both," Sujin said, standing up. "I've been monitoring their communications. The attacks are causing problems. Supply chains are disrupted. Commanders are arguing about how to stop us, and War Master Thrak has been ordered to hunt us down personally." "He's coming for us?" Hana asked. "He left Velkari core territory 2 weeks ago," Sujin confirmed. "He has 5 warships. They're searching the sectors where we've been operating." The crew looked worried. 5 warships was far more than they could fight directly. The Iron Will might handle 1, maybe 2 if they were lucky. But 5 was suicide. Daewon smiled. "Good. Let him come. We've been preparing for this." He explained the plan. They would lead Thrak to a location of their choosing, an abandoned mining station called Omega-9. They had spent the last month rigging the station with mines, hidden weapons platforms, and traps. Commander Jamin's stealth corvette Shadow Blade would be waiting in ambush along with other human ships that Admiral Bora had quietly sent to help. "This is our chance to hurt them badly," Daewon said, "to take out Thrak and his hunter group, to show the Velkari that we're not prey, we're predators." The crew voted. It was unanimous. They would spring the trap. Over the next 2 weeks, they made themselves visible. They hit targets in a pattern that led toward Omega-9. They left clues. They made sure Velkari intelligence could track their movements. They baited the trap. Thrak took the bait. Sujin detected his fleet 3 days out from Omega-9. 5 warships, including a destroyer-class vessel that was twice the size of the Iron Will. That would be Thrak's command ship, the Bloodhammer. "They're coming fast," Sujin reported. "They know where we are." "Then let's give them a show," Daewon said. They transmitted a false distress signal from Omega-9. They made the Iron Will appear damaged on sensors. They painted a picture of a wounded ship, easy prey, too hurt to run. Thrak. War Master Thrak stood on the bridge of the Bloodhammer, staring at the view screen. There, limping through space near the abandoned mining station, was the human ship that had plagued the Empire for 8 months, the Iron Will, the Ghost Commander's vessel. "Finally," Thrak growled. His second officer stood beside him, looking uncertain. "War Master, the damage readings might be false. This could be a trap." Thrak's hand lashed out, striking the officer across the face. The smaller Velkari stumbled back. "Coward, look at their ship. Engines barely functioning. Weapons offline. They are helpless. We will crush them and end this annoyance." The 5 Velkari warships approached in a standard attack formation, Thrak's Bloodhammer in the center, flanked by 2 frigates on each side. They were confident, powerful, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. On the Iron Will, Captain Daewon watched them come. His hands were steady on the armrests of his command chair. Around him, his crew sat at their stations ready, waiting. "Distance?" he asked quietly. 1,000,000 kilometers, Hana answered. "Still closing. The other ships?" "In position. Shadow Blade reports ready. Subin's squadron is standing by. All mines are armed." Daewon counted down in his head. The Velkari ships would reach the optimal attack range in 3 minutes. 3 minutes until everything changed. "They're launching fighters," Hana reported. 30 contacts. Moving ahead of the main fleet. "Subin, deal with them." From hidden positions in the asteroid field, Subin's fighter squadron launched. They had 16 fighters now, double what they started with. Admiral Bora had sent reinforcements. The pilots were all volunteers, all people who had lost someone to the Velkari. Subin's fighters hit the Velkari fighter screen like a hammer. The Velkari pilots were good, but they were used to fighting inferior enemies. They expected easy victories. Instead, they found humans who fought with desperate skill and advanced weapons. Half the Velkari fighters died in the first 30 seconds. Mines activating in 10 seconds, Hana counted down. 9, 8, 7. Throck realized something was wrong when the minefield appeared on his sensors. Hundreds of mines hidden in the debris field around the station suddenly powered up and started moving toward his ships. Evasive action, he roared, too late. The mines struck 2 frigates simultaneously. The explosions ripped through their shields and armor. One frigate lost engines and drifted helpless. The other exploded completely, killing all 200 crew members instantly. "Sir, multiple contacts," the Velkari sensor officer shouted. "Stealth ships decloaking." Commander Jamin's Shadow Blade appeared first, along with 2 other stealth corvettes. They had been hiding in the debris completely invisible. Now they opened fire at point-blank range. Their torpedoes, equipped with Young Mi's frequency-shifting technology, tore through Velkari shields. The second undamaged frigate tried to turn and fight. Subin's fighters swarmed it, targeting weapons and engines. Overwhelmed and outmaneuvered, it tried to retreat. The Shadow Blade finished it with a torpedo spread that broke the ship in half. In 3 minutes, Throck had lost 4 of his 5 ships. Only the Bloodhammer remained. "All power to forward shields," Throck commanded. "Ram the Iron Will. We'll take them with us." The Bloodhammer's massive engines flared to life. The destroyer accelerated directly toward Daewon's ship. It was a suicide attack, but Throck didn't care. He would kill these humans even if it cost him everything. Jamin saw what was happening. The Shadow Blade was the closest ship. He could intercept. "This is Jamin to Iron Will," he transmitted. "Get clear." "I'll stop him." "Negative," Daewon shouted. "Jamin, stand down." "Too late for orders, Captain. My wife died at New Pyongyang. Tell her parents I remembered her every day." Jamin switched to his crew channel. "All hands evacuate ship now. Get to the escape pods." His crew didn't hesitate. They had trained for this. In 60 seconds, every crew member except Jamin had ejected in escape pods. The Shadow Blade turned and accelerated toward the Bloodhammer. Throck saw it coming and tried to destroy it, but the corvette was too fast, too maneuverable. Jamin dodged the weapon's fire and aimed his ship directly at the Bloodhammer's bridge. The 2 ships collided at high speed. The Shadow Blade's reinforced bow punched through the Bloodhammer's armor like a spear. The explosion was massive, visible across the entire battle space. When the flames cleared, both ships were badly damaged. The Shadow Blade was gone, torn apart. The Bloodhammer drifted, engines dead, fires burning through multiple decks. But it was still intact. And Throck was still alive. "Boarding parties, go," Daewon ordered. Donghyun and his Marines launched in 3 boarding pods. They attached to the Bloodhammer's hull and cut through. Inside they found chaos. Fires, damaged systems, injured Velkari crew members, but also armed soldiers defending their ship. The Marines fought deck by deck, corridor by corridor. The Velkari were strong and vicious, but the Marines had better weapons and were fighting for revenge. Every Marine had lost someone at New Pyongyang. They would not stop. Donghyun led his squad toward the bridge. They fought through Velkari soldiers, using cover and tactics to overcome the aliens' physical advantages. The corridor leading to the bridge was filled with bodies by the time they reached it. The bridge doors were sealed. Donghyun placed breaching charges and blew them open. Inside, War Master Throck waited with his honor guard. 6 elite Velkari warriors, the best soldiers in the Empire, and Throck himself, massive and scarred, holding a weapon in each hand. "Come then, humans," Throck roared. "Die with honor if you can." The fight was brutal. The honor guard charged. Marines fired. Velkari warriors fell but took Marines with them. Donghyun shot one guard, then another. A third guard slashed him across the chest with claws. He fell back, wounded but alive. Finally, only Throck remained. He had killed 3 Marines and wounded 2 more. He stood in the center of his ruined bridge, breathing hard, covered in blood. Daewon entered the bridge. He had come across from the Iron Will in the second wave of boarders. He walked past Donghyun, past the wounded Marines, and faced Throck directly. "You," Throck said, recognition in his eyes. "The Ghost Commander?" "Captain Daewon of the human frigate Iron Will," Day One said. You destroyed my colony. You killed 47,000 people, including my sister. Throck laughed, a harsh sound. New Pyongyang. Yes, I remember. Your people died like insects, screaming and helpless. Day One drew his sidearm and fired. The shot hit Throck's weapon, knocking it from his hand. You will face justice for what you did, Day One said. Justice? Throck spat the word. I am a war master of the Velkari Empire. I have conquered worlds. I do not answer to lesser species. You do now, Throck charged. He was wounded and weaponless, but still dangerous. Day One sidestepped and struck with the butt of his gun. Throck stumbled. Marines moved in, surrounding him. Throck fought them, but there were too many. They brought him down and bound him. War Master Throck, the destroyer of New Pyongyang, was now a prisoner. Day One stood over him. You said my people died as weaklings die. But we're still here, still fighting, while you're on your knees defeated. Throck glared up at him but said nothing. The Marines secured the Bloodhammer. They took the surviving Velkari crew prisoner, dozens of them. When the count was done, Day One had the numbers. Battle casualties, 1,500 Velkari dead. 4 warships destroyed. 1 captured, the cost, the Shadow Blade lost. Jaemin dead. 17 Marines killed. 34 wounded. It was their greatest victory, and their costliest. That night, Day One stood in his ready room recording a message. It would be broadcast across Velkari space. Impossible to ignore. He stood with Throck bound behind him, visible in the frame. I am Captain Day One of the human vessel Iron Will. 8 months ago, this Velkari commander ordered the destruction of the human colony New Pyongyang. 47,000 civilians were murdered. Today his fleet is destroyed. 500 Velkari military personnel are dead, and War Master Throck is my prisoner. Day One stepped closer to the camera. The Velkari Empire believed humans were weak. They believed they could murder our people without consequence. They were wrong. We have killed 1,500 of you in payment for the lives you took. But we are not done, not even close. He gestured to Throck. Every drop of human blood you spilled will cost you 10 times over. That was my promise. I intend to keep it. Until the Velkari Empire answers for its crimes, until justice is served, we will not stop. We will not forgive. We will not forget. The message ended. Day One transmitted it on all Velkari frequencies, then had copies sent to every human colony on Earth. Let both sides know what had happened here. Let the Velkari know that attacking humanity carried a price. He returned to the bridge. His crew looked exhausted but satisfied. They had hurt the enemy badly today. Made them pay. Take us home, Day One ordered. We need to refit, resupply, and mourn our dead. But then we return. This war isn't over. The Iron Will turned toward human space, limping but undefeated. Behind them, the Bloodhammer was secured with a prize crew aboard. They were bringing Throck back to face justice. The hunt had begun 8 months ago. Today it had finally drawn blood that mattered, but it was only the beginning. 6 months after Throck's capture, Earth's orbit was filled with ships, not just the military vessels that had always been there, but dozens of new warships fresh from the construction yards. Day One's broadcast had changed everything. Captain Day One stood on the observation deck of an orbital station, watching construction crews work on a massive new battleship. The ship was 3 times the size of the Iron Will, bristling with weapons based on Young Mi's designs. It was one of 40 new warships being built. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Bora stood beside him. She looked older now, more tired. The war had aged everyone. We should have built these years ago, Day One said. We didn't think we needed them. We were peaceful. We thought everyone else was too. She turned to look at him. You changed that. Your broadcast woke humanity up, made us realize we were surrounded by empires that saw us as weak. I just wanted justice for New Pyongyang. You got more than that. You started a war, it was true. After Day One's broadcast, the Velkari Empire had responded with fury. They demanded Throck's return. They threatened to destroy every human colony. They sent diplomatic messages that were really ultimatums. Humanity's response surprised them. Instead of backing down, instead of surrendering Throck and begging for mercy, humans armed themselves. Volunteers flooded military recruitment centers. Factories switched to warship production. Scientists shared every piece of research that might help in combat. For the first time in their history, humans were united by a common enemy. Diplomat Hyojin had spent months trying to negotiate with the Velkari Empire. She was a skilled negotiator, patient and clever, but even she was running out of options. They won't back down, she told Daewon during a meeting. Empress Veksha has staked her reputation on retrieving Thrak and punishing humanity. If she backs down, she loses power. Other Velkhari leaders will see it as weakness, so they'll attack, Fleet Admiral Wu Jin said. He was the newly appointed commander of humanity's defense forces, a career military officer who had spent 40 years preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Yes, our intelligence suggests they're gathering a fleet, at least 120 warships. They'll come to make an example of us. Daewon had been invited to this meeting as an advisor. His crew, the survivors of the Iron Wills campaign, were now training other units in irregular warfare tactics. Young Mi was overseeing weapons production. Hana had taken command of a new ship. Subin was teaching fighter tactics to new pilots. How many ships can we field? Daewon asked. 40 warships, Wu Jin answered, plus 30 support vessels and about 200 fighters. We're outnumbered 3-1. But we have better weapons now, Young Mi said via video link. Every ship has frequency-shifting torpedoes. Every fighter has enhanced targeting systems. We've learned from studying Velkhari technology. It won't be enough, Heejin said quietly. Even with superior weapons, the numbers are against us. They can afford to lose 50 ships. We can't afford to lose 10. The meeting continued for hours. They discussed tactics, defensive positions, evacuation plans, but everyone knew the truth. When the Velkhari came, it would be humanity's greatest test. Intelligence officer Su Jin had been monitoring Velkhari communications constantly. 1 week before the meeting, she discovered something important. Sir, I need to show you this, she told Daewon privately. She played an intercepted message. It was between two Velkhari commanders discussing the attack on New Pyongyang. In the message, they talked about void crystals, about how valuable they were, about how the decision to destroy the colony was made not for security, but for profit. They killed 47,000 people for mining resources, Su Jin said. It wasn't even strategic. It was just greed. Daewon recorded the message and attached it to his report. When the Velkhari Empire came, the universe would know the truth. This wasn't a war of necessity. It was a war started by Velkhari greed and cruelty. The Velkhari fleet arrived 2 weeks later. 120 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Pyongyang system. The colony had been partially rebuilt. 5,000 people now lived there, mostly survivors and volunteers. Daewon had insisted on defending it. This was where it started. This was where it would be decided. Fleet Admiral Wu Jin commanded from the battleship Eternal Defender. Daewon was there too, along with Hana, now captain of her own cruiser. Subin led the fighter wings. Tae Yang coordinated engineering teams across the fleet. Jiwoo commanded medical operations. The survivors of New Pyongyang stood together one more time. Empress Veksha herself commanded the Velkhari fleet from her flagship. She opened communications expecting humans to beg for mercy. Humans of Earth. Her voice boomed through the speakers. You have attacked our empire. You hold our war master prisoner. You will return him immediately and surrender your fleet. If you comply, we will allow some of your colonies to survive, Wu Jin responded. Empress Veksha, we have evidence that your empire murdered 47,000 civilians for mining resources. We have testimony from your own officers. War Master Thrak will stand trial for his crimes. Your empire owes humanity reparations and recognition of our sovereignty. The Velkhari Empress laughed. It was a terrible sound. You dare make demands? You are insects. We are an empire that spans 50 star systems. We will crush you and take what we want. This is your last chance. Surrender. We will not surrender, Wu Jin said. We will not run. We will not beg. If you want a war, Empress, you will have one. But know this. You will pay in blood for every human life you've taken. The Velkhari fleet advanced. The Battle of New Pyongyang lasted 6 hours. It was the largest space battle in human history. The Velkhari came in standard formation, massive ships moving in organized patterns. They expected to overwhelm the human fleet through sheer firepower. They expected humans to fight like other species they had conquered, with rigid tactics and predictable responses. They were wrong. Human ships moved in coordinated groups, but not in fixed formations. They adapted constantly, responding to changes in the battle. When the Velkhari focused on one group, another would strike from a different angle. When the Velkari tried to surround human ships, those ships would scatter and regroup somewhere else. Subin's fighters were everywhere. They hit vulnerable ships, targeting engines and weapons. They drew fire away from larger vessels. They were fast, unpredictable, and deadly. The Velkari fighters couldn't match their tactics. Young Mi's weapons proved their worth. The frequency-shifting torpedoes cut through Velkari shields that had seemed invincible. The Velkari shields could adapt to weapon frequencies, but not fast enough. Human weapons changed frequencies too quickly, but the Velkari had numbers. Even losing ships, even taking casualties, they kept coming. They had the weight of an empire behind them. The Eternal Defender took heavy damage protecting a group of cruisers. Admiral Wu Jin ordered evacuation of non-essential crew but stayed at his post, directing the battle even as his ship burned around him. Hana's cruiser fought alongside the Iron Will, commanded now by a new captain but still bearing the scars of its long campaign. Together they destroyed 3 Velkari frigates before a dreadnought targeted them. They barely escaped. The battle was brutal. Ships on both sides exploded. Thousands died in seconds when hulls were breached. The space around New Pyongyang filled with debris and bodies. Then something changed. Daewon noticed it first. The Velkari ships were fighting less aggressively. They were pulling back slightly, hesitating. "They're losing," Hana transmitted. They expected an easy victory. "Now they're taking real casualties and we're still fighting." She was right. The Velkari had never faced an enemy that hurt them this badly. Other species had surrendered or been destroyed. But humans kept fighting, kept adapting, kept killing Velkari ships. Empress Veksha made a mistake. She committed her flagship, trying to break the human line personally. She thought her presence would inspire her fleet. Instead, it gave the humans a target. Daewon saw the opportunity. All ships focus fire on the flagship. Fighters clear a path. Subin's squadrons dove at the ships protecting the Empress. They took losses but opened gaps in the defensive formation. Human cruisers poured fire through those gaps. The flagship's shields held but barely. Then Taeyang did something brilliant. He coordinated every ship to fire at exactly the same moment, all weapons shifting to the same frequency. The combined firepower overwhelmed the flagship's shields for just 2 seconds. That was enough. Torpedoes struck the flagship's hull. The damage was severe but not fatal. The Empress survived. But her ship was crippled, forcing her to transfer to another vessel. The psychological impact was immense. The Velkari had never seen their Empress forced to flee her own ship. Their morale cracked. When the Velkari fleet finally retreated 4 hours later, they left behind 89 destroyed warships. The human fleet had lost 17 ships and thousands of personnel. It was a costly victory, but it was a victory the universe watched. Other species saw that the Velkari Empire, seemingly invincible, had been defeated by humans. In smaller numbers with fewer ships, humanity had won through superior tactics and sheer determination. 3 days after the battle, Empress Veksha agreed to negotiate. It was the first time in Velkari history that they had requested negotiations after